Good morning everyone, this is Shifali and you're watching my channel Mast Musafir. I hope all of you are doing well and I must tell you that I'm also doing really well. And the reason behind this excitement is that I am standing and speaking to you right now, standing in Dirang. Yes, I'm in Dirang, Arunachal Pradesh. As you can see behind me, we have the Dirang Valley and it's a wonderful experience to be here. For various reasons. So I had been meaning to step out of Delhi for a while. I wanted to go on this trip. I wanted to come on a trip, and for the longest of time, for various reasons, I couldn't go on a trip because of health or various other reasons. Let that be. And I would sit in my balcony looking at the planes flying past and wonder, when will I get to hop onto one of them and fly away to my destination. Secondly, I have always wanted to explore Northeast. I have been to parts of Assam, but I also wanted to explore Arunachal Pradesh. The place holds a certain magic, certain mysticism for me, and I wanted to see it for myself. And third important reason why I'm here is because of my mother. Yeah, she spent a part of her childhood in Arunachal Pradesh, in Assam, in Tejpur, Dirang. So I wanted to see these places for myself. I wanted to go with her. I wanted to see my mother walk down the memory lanes, revisit the moments that she made here. And as I can see her doing that, it fills me with immense joy. It's happy and emotional and nostalgic to see her reliving those moments with her daughter. And there are a lot of surprises ahead for us, a lot of places we'll be visiting. So yeah, those were a couple of reasons. I wanted to get out of Delhi and go on a trip. B, I wanted to explore Arunachal Pradesh. C, I wanted to see it through my mother's eyes. And fourth, and this one is the most special reason, it's because of this. So, this is a book, Monial, Land of Monpas by J.S.P. Singh, who is my Nana. So, my Nana ji was in the paramilitary in the forces, and he had come to Arunachal Pradesh for the first time way back in the 1960s, when all of this development, all of this infrastructure was not there. The roads were not as well developed as they are now. And I don't know if you can see that bridge behind me, that Pakka bridge, even that wasn't here. There was a hanging rope bridge. So he came with his people, and today we covered all that distance by car, and that was approximately a 6 to 7 hours journey on winding hills and all. He came here on foot with his company of men. You know, I have grown up listening to his stories, his experiences. He has a great way of narrating them, of where all he went, what all he did, how was the place, how untouched it was, what was the local tribal culture and customs, and how he would just try his best to blend into them. So all of those stories are in here in this book, and I've always wanted to give this book a good read, but I never sat with it properly. I just felt that this is not the right time. This is not the right time. And now, as a plan for Arunachal Pradesh was finalized, that's when I picked up this book. And I must tell you that it's been nothing but joy. I've been reading all his tales, all the information. So I'll be visiting those places that he went on foot, and later on my mother and her siblings ended up living in and exploring and spending their fun childhood moments. And I'll finally get to see it through their eyes, through their stories. I think I have blabbered on for quite a while. Now I should just take your leave, but I'm excited to be on this journey, and I'm excited to take you along. So I hope that you like it and enjoy it as much as I do, because I can already sense it that this is going to be special. That's all for now. Bye-bye.
Traveling in general is fun, but there's something about airports that I really find very exciting. The vibe is such, the atmosphere is such, there's so many people moving around, all headed with a purpose, walking really fast. There's a sense of rush, a busyness. I wonder what all stories are they carrying in their backpacks. I wonder where they're headed to, what's their destination, what's going on in their mind. There's a sort of cosmopolitanism there. People from all sorts of backgrounds are there, coming from different places, and I really like it. So we had landed in Itanagar, the capital of Arunachal Pradesh. This was a relatively plains area. It was only the next day that we headed for our first destination, which was Dirang, that we started our ascent into the hilly regions of Arunachal Pradesh. Traversing through winding hilly roads in extremely rainy weather with the mist descending upon the mountain slopes, you realize that perhaps road journey is the best way of traveling. You get to experience the place in a more palpable manner. You get to experience it. Like any road trip, it begins with a lot of family chatter and a lot of excitement and listening to songs, but eventually you wean away from the music, you look outside your windows, you get consumed by the sights and the natural beauty. Nature takes over you and you are completely left awestruck and to your own thoughts, and that's when you realize that you've truly become a traveler and that you're traveling in the truest and most honest sense of the word. You're one with nature. We also crossed Nag Mandir, and it's only later that I got to know that there was an interesting story behind its construction as well. Perhaps I'll explore it in my next visit, whenever that may be. So we had finally reached Dirang, and although we were all very tired, we still decided to go for a stroll in the market. We thought we'll explore the town and the market, and it was quite literally a walk down the memory lane for my mother, and she couldn't help but notice the changes that had occurred. There was a lot of construction that had happened. Things were relatively simpler in her times when she used to live here as a child. So yes, she was just going around, just taking everything in.
इस साइड पहाड़ था, उस साइड खाई था. हाँ, पहले तो ऐसे ही था. Long back.
From where I sit on the high platform, I can see the ferry lights crisscrossing the big river. I know the towns, the estuary mouth. There, beyond the last bank where the color drains from heaven, I can outline the chapters of the world. I am the place where memory escapes the myth of time. I'm the sleep in the mind of the mountain. So the next morning we decided to visit my mom's old school. Sadly, the old building was no longer there, but we did visit the new building where the school had shifted to, and there I found this board and realized that the school was established way back in 1947. Next, we visited the old house where my mum and her siblings grew up.
यहाँ एक एप्पल पेड़ होता था गोल्डन का, और यहाँ 2 प्लम के पेड़ होते थे, बड़े बड़े प्लम के पेड़. भाई गॉड नोस.
Next, we were headed to the beautiful Sangti Valley. Also, these agricultural fields remind me that our visit coincided with Rongali Bihu. Now, Rongali Bihu is a northeastern festival. It also marks the beginning of Assamese New Year, and like other Bihu festivals, it marks an agricultural cycle of the paddy crops. I did see groups of men and women clad in their traditional outfits going from house to house celebrating the festival. This time I couldn't capture it, but maybe I'll leave it for my next visit.
Alright, so we have arrived in Sangti now. This around me is the Sangti Valley, and here is the Sangti Nadi, जो आगे जाके कामिंग नदी में मिल जाता है. We have come all the way from Dirang, and that was the route that we followed, and here we are to enjoy the Sangti Valley. So come on along. करके आ चुके हैं यहाँ नीचे नदी के पास, तो एक्सप्लोर करते हैं। लेट्स गो डाउन टू द रिवर। थिंक दिस इज अ नाइस पिकनिक स्पॉट ऑल्सो। रात को आप बॉनफायर बिछा के यहाँ पे जैमिंग सेशंस कर सकते हो, पिकनिक कर सकते हो। आप यहाँ पे आके चाय पी सकते हैं, कुछ खा सकते हैं और नज़ारे का आनंद ले सकते हैं। सो पीसफुल एंड ब्लिसफुल। हाँ, और वो वहाँ पे वो स्टोन पेबल से उन लोगों ने वो मीनार भी बना रखा है, विच आई थिंक दे डू फॉर गुड लक।
लेकिन ये भी जंप मारेगा। देखो टच इट हैवी है ना?
काफी हैवी है। मुझे नहीं लगता है।
मुझे लगता है, लेकिन अब देखते हैं।
हाँ।
2-3 बार।
आपने दूसरा बैंक पे पहुंचा। मामा यू हैव स्किल्स वैसे, मतलब हाँ, इट डज फील गुड टू स्टैंड हियर एंड सोक इन एवरीथिंग। पानी की आवाज, हवा की ताजगी, वादियों की रौनक और हम। वेरी प्रिटी बट द वाटर इज कोल्ड। इट्स वेरी डिसेप्टिवली कोल्ड। पता है, पहले पैर रखो तो उतना ठंडा नहीं लगता है और जब अंदर जाओ तो बहुत ठंडा लगता है। ओके, इट्स कोल्ड। इट्स कोल्ड, वेरी क्लियर, एकदम ट्रांसपेरेंट। पोल्यूशन, वाटर पोल्यूशन, व्हाट इज दैट? आई होप वी टूरिस्ट कीप इट लाइक दिस। और आई होप मैं एक स्टोन टार जिसने भी बहुत मेहनत से बनाया है उसे डिस्ट्रॉय ना कर दूं। शैल आई ट्राई प्लेसिंग वन स्टोन ऑन इट? ओ सॉरी।
Now it was time to leave the beautiful, peaceful and serene Sangti Valley. Dirang and Sangti both come under West Kameng district of Arunachal Pradesh. Also on our way back we crossed the sheep farm, which is also a very old establishment, and I have to say that I love these frame houses of Arunachal Pradesh. Tiny, colorful and so pretty. Also you see that blue structure, it's called a chorten. These are stupa-like structures which are built as memorials to late lamas or prominent village elders. You'll mostly find them in a white base. So the next day we set off for Tawang, but on our way we made several stops, and our first one was the Nyukmadung War Memorial. So now what was the Battle of Nyukmadung? So we have all heard of the 1962 Indo-Sino War or the Chinese aggression. Also Arunachal Pradesh was known as NEFA back then, Northeast Frontier Agency. So on 18th November 1962, amidst harsh terrain and overwhelming odds, the soldiers of the 62 Infantry Brigade, led by Brigadier Hoshiar Singh, stood resolute against the advancing Chinese forces. Now next we were to cross the Sela Pass. Now La itself means pass, so it should technically just be called Sela. Sela is a high altitude mountain pass located on the border between the Tawang and West Kameng districts such as Dirang. So it is the border between Dirang and Tawang roughly. So recently the government built the Sela tunnel, so that has made transportation a little easier. So we didn't really have to cross the pass, we took the easier route through the tunnel, but I'm sure the pass holds its own magic. Also, all I could see in Sela was fog, and I guess some things don't change because my Nanu also had a similar experience, and here I quote from his book. We had left Dirang with a curiosity to cross Sela and see Tawang Monastery, but Sela was covered with thick fog and we could not have a glimpse of the Gompa. Our next stop was the Jaswantgarh War Memorial. The memorial pays homage to Rifleman Jaswant Singh Rawat, who laid down his life resisting the Chinese army's march at Jung for about 72 hours along with two other soldiers during the 1962 war.
Hello everyone. So we have finally crossed सेला पास. हम लोग दिरांग से सुबह सुबह निकल गए थे. हमने सेला पास सेला टनल से क्रॉस कर लिया है और अभी हम वी आर ऑन रूट टू तवांग, बट अभी बीच में हम रुके हैं जसवंतगढ़ पे. जसवंतगढ़ इज बेसिकली अ वॉर मेमोरियल. यहाँ पे बहुत साल पहले देयर वाज अ सोल्जर कॉल्ड जसवंत एंड कहा जाता है दैट उन्होंने अकेले बहुत टाइम तक चाइनीज आर्मी को रोक के रखा था एंड अकेले ही ब्रेवली फॉट फॉर मेनी आवर्स. तो उनके ऑनर में ये वॉर मेमोरियल बनाया गया है. लोकल्स ने, आर्मी ने मिल के उनके लिए ये वॉर मेमोरियल बनाया. देयर इज दैट building, that's the gateway we entered from, and such is the spirit of India कि हमने सिर्फ उनके लिए ही नहीं बनाया, but a lot of Chinese soldiers who were martyred in this war, we even made a graveyard for them, all those who couldn't be taken back to their country. So it's a very well made place, very thoughtfully made, very nicely made.
Sorry, there seems to have been some glitch because of which I have lost the audio in this section, but the gist of what I was trying to say here is that just look around the beauty. Look around at the magnificent mountains, the green lands, the blue skies. This was a beautiful place, but sadly this is exactly where a war was fought. यहाँ लड़ाई लड़ी गई थी, जंग हुई थी, हमारे वीर जवानों ने अपनी जान की कुर्बानी दी थी, खून बहाया था, तब जाके इस सरजमीन को हम अपना कह सके हैं, इसे बचा के रख सके हैं. So travel really gives you perspective, it opens your mind. You realize कि आप अपने देश में सुंदर जगहों पे जहाँ आज़ादी से घूम पा रहे हैं, उन्हें हासिल करने के लिए, उन्हें बचा के रखने के लिए कितनी मेहनत लगती है. सरहदों पे हमारे जवान जो तैनात हैं वो कितनी मुश्किलों का सामना करते हैं. सो येस, ट्रैवल डज गिव यू पर्सपेक्टिव एंड देन यू गो बैक विद अ डिफरेंट रिजॉल्व कि वील नॉट टेक दिस फ्रीडम फॉर ग्रांटेड. वॉट एवर वी डू, वील ट्राई टू डू आवर बेस्ट.
I think these are the different symbols in Buddhism that have been explained here. Very nicely, they've made the symbol as well as written the accompanying information. This is the stairway to the memorial that you just saw. And that's the gateway that we came from.
So we had finally reached our main destination, Tawang, and our first stop had to be the famous Tawang Monastery. But before that, a little something on the name Tawang. Tawang means chosen by the horse or blessed by the horse. Now, the Tawang Monastery was founded by Mirak Lama in 17th century in accordance with the wishes of the 5th Dalai Lama. This monastery falls under the Gelugpa sect of Buddhism and it is 3 stories high, more than 300 years old, and the library of the monastery has valuable old scriptures. There's a silver casket here which contains the copper tube containing the silk cloth on which the 5th Dalai Lama has painted Palden Lamu with his blood. Palden Lamu is their tutelary deity. Time to time, senior lamas can see the casket inside the altar. One can see a lot of tantric influences in Tibetan Buddhism, be it their idols or paintings or rich ornamentations and interesting rituals and ceremonies and other practices. All of this was well explained and showcased in the Tawang Monastery Museum. Videography and photography was not allowed, so I guess some things are experienced best in person. But we saw a lot of interesting costumes, vessels, and instruments that were used almost 300 years ago, including human skulls and the human femur for ritualistic practices.
I'm inside the temple.
वेल अब तवांग मोनास्ट्री से जाने का वक्त आ चुका था, लेकिन सच कहूँ तो मेरा जाने का बिल्कुल मन नहीं था। इतना कुछ है जानने के लिए और बताने के लिए तवांग मोनास्ट्री के बारे में कि ये एक व्लॉग तो वैसे भी छोटा पड़ेगा। तो आई होप आई गेट टू कम हियर अगेन, फिंगर्स क्रॉस्ड। And now it was time to visit the giant Buddha temple. This is a relatively newer addition to Tawang, but definitely worth a visit, and it provides a nice viewpoint too. And the central idol here is that of Padmasambhav, who is credited with introducing Tantric Buddhism to Tibet. So these cylindrical prayer wheels in Buddhism are called mani wheels, and I think you have to turn them from right to left while praying. And बचपन से ही मुझे मेरे नाना ने बुद्धिस्ट मंत्र सिखाया है, ओम माने पेमे हम का, तो I follow that. Next we headed to Major Bob Cutting Museum. Bob Cutting was an Indian soldier, civil servant and diplomat. The government of India honoured him in 1957 with the award of Padma Shri. Now why he's important in our Arunachal trip is because Cutting led the first armed forces into Tawang that established Indian control in the region. Later, we also saw a light and sound show cum movie on the Tawang region and its history and culture, organized by the Indian Army for the tourists.
नहीं हमारी सदियों रहा है दुश्मन दौरे जहां हमारा.
Next day, early morning, we set off for Shungatsar Lake and Bumla Pass, which is further ahead of Tawang and on higher altitudes. Also on our way, we came across many such small glacial lakes or ponds which had been formed after the melting of all the snow and the glaciers, and that is sort of a characteristic feature of the way to Bumla. which is again a very high pass that lies on the Indo-China border. On the way, we also crossed many military posts and a Gurudwara. And as we kept on ascending higher and higher, the weather kept on getting worse. It grew colder and chillier, and there was snowfall. We even witnessed rainfall. And as you can see, the terrain got very raw and rough, barely any vegetation, and then suddenly we spotted our Shungatsar lake. So on the way to this lake, I read on a board that in the year 1971 there was a massive earthquake, because of which there was a landslide. An entire village, an entire landmass came down. It was displaced, and that is why you see these dead tree trunks. And there was no lake initially, but once that whole landmass came down, and there was the melting of the ice and the snow and the glaciers, and because of the rains and the floods, that's how this lake was created. So sadly, this beautiful place has a very tragic history to it.
Alright, so we are on day 4th of our trip, and yesterday was all solely dedicated to Tawang, but today morning we woke up early and we left Tawang. We set off on our road journey to this wonderful magical place, which is Shungatsar Lake, which you can see right behind me. Very pleasing to the eyes. It seems like a marvel, a natural wonder. Interesting thing, which is sort of a fun fact about this place, is that it's also called Madhuri Lake. And while we all love Madhuri, we really wonder why this was named so. So apparently she worked in a movie called Koila, जो बहुत famous movie है, और उस movie में she had a dance number which was shot here in this beautifully aesthetically pleasing lake, also very freezing lake. So उसके बाद से शुंगात्सर लेक जो है माधुरी लेक से के नाम से भी जाने जाना लगा, और शुंगात्सर लेक बोल सकते हैं अब लोकलाइज्ड भाषा में इसको संगास्तर सो भी बोलते हैं. संगास्तर सो का मतलब ही लेक होता है. सो फॉर एग्जांपल लद्दाख में वी हैव पैंगोंग सो स्टैंड्स फॉर लेक. सो दिस इज़ द ब्यूटिफुल साइट. एंड पहले ये सारी जगहें बहुत ही डिफ़िकल्ट टू रीच थी, बट अभी बिकॉज ऑफ BRO बॉर्डर रोड्स ऑर्गेनाइजेशन एक्सेसिबिलिटी बढ़ गई है, एंड एक्सेसिबिलिटी बढ़ गई है तो टूरिज़्म भी बढ़ गया है. सो वी सी अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल हियर. इनफैक्ट ऑन आवर वे हियर वी एक्चुअली सॉ अ ट्रैफिक जैम. सो I think that's both good and bad. There are pros and cons. But then बाकी टूरिस्ट की तरह हम भी टूरिस्ट हैं. So I think we are adding to the chaos. I just hope we are able to carry on with responsible tourism.
So after Shungatsar So, our next stop was Bumla Pass. While Shungatsar So was some 12,000 feet above sea level, Bumla Pass is more than 15,000 feet above sea level. And as you can see, the climate and the terrain was getting extremely harsh, extremely inhospitable. And Bumla Pass is basically the border pass between India and China. Not much videography or photography was allowed on the border post, of course. So, but I have captured the view from our route, our way to the Bumla Pass. While I only clicked a picture there, I was reminded of what I read in my Nana's book, that locals would light an incense stick, would add a stone to the stone tower and scream lasso low to ward off the evil spirits, the demons, and light the incense stick to give their prayers and offerings to the angels to protect them at the pass and to look after them. And finally, on the last day of our trip, on our way back, we crossed an orchidarium in Tippi, and I must tell you that it was a very fascinating visit. I got to see so many variety of the orchids and different flowers, different colors, different varieties. Quite a rich experience, I would say. So with this, our wholesome family trip to Arunachal Pradesh was over. It was packed, tight, and a bit hectic, but I'm so grateful for it. And with that, we come to an end of my Arunachal trip and this vlog as well. If you liked it, then don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. It would mean a lot. Thank you.